Okay, welcome back to the Postie bike charity build for Make-A-Wish Foundation. We're getting along with the bike. Today we're just going to be looking at putting in the wiring loom back in and just how to run it, where it should be routed, and just some little bits and pieces and advice on that. Start to put it back. I've got some parts set up for the engine hopefully next week, which we should be able to get that all completed then and put it back in. So, and we've got tank and fenders coming from Jeff at postiebike.com. It's donated them, so yeah, it's starting to come together. So we'll get into this wiring loom. So I might have to do a few videos on this. This is a little bit to it, but we'll just see how we go for time. So I just lay out the loom next to the bike the way it goes. So this end with all the plugs goes inside the headlight bucket. And then as you come down, you've got your ignition switch. So that's got your, let's go through and make sure I've got the right ones. So you've got your black and white, black, green and red there for the ignition switch, and I'll just line up with that. Then we've got further down, we've got the plug for our regulator rectifier. We've got these wires go to the engine. On some of them have a plug, some don't. This one actually doesn't. It's a 4-pin plug. I'm going to just change it to connect it, so and make it all match up. And then we've got our CDI, so we've got our ignition module basically that comes back to this one, so with the green and white and the blue and yellow. I think on the engine they're just blue and green to match in. And then this guy here goes to the regulator rectifier as well. There's a pink wire that goes to this guy, and then this sits inside in here behind the battery, and they plug in for the tail light, other bits and pieces. We've got, I've tried to plug this stuff in so you can see what it is. That's our flasher. It's normally a round silver can, or you can get them in this shape, either one. Just a 6-volt flasher relay, and that's a CDI. That's just one of the 6-volt ones that I had here. So they're all plugged in. They clip on with rubber mounts on the back of the battery box, but I'll show you that when we get to it. Pardon me. And these two green wires are a ground. They go to a little bolt here, bolt onto there. That's our ground. And then in here, I haven't uncovered them, but we've got our positive and negative for our battery in here. So we've got to put a fuse in and bits and pieces. But we'll just focus on getting the loom in where it needs to be. Run it through, get it sort of clipped up. We need to put the coil in. So the coil bolts up underneath the tank. There's 2 holes there, the ones on the diagonal. So the coil bolts up these nuts, sits up underneath, and then we'll run that through the spark plug lead. Also there'll be the rectifier regulator. Now I haven't painted this up or tied it up because I've got 2 of them and I don't know which one works. So I'll do a bit of a test. Whichever one works, I'll pull out and give it a paint up and polish up and put it back in to match the rest of the bike. But for now I'm just going to put it in. It's just 2 plugs, so that lead and that plug. So alright, well, let's turn the camera off for a second. I'll bolt this up, and then that will give us some more things to plug into. So this just comes up here where the stand the crash bar goes from here down to the motor. So when you put the crash bar, the chrome crash bar, it sits on top of these guys and bolts down, but these will just sit in. So I'll put the bolt in for that now, just to hold it in place. It's got a little saddle here, sits on. They normally do have a steel strap, comes around. They all seem to break on the ones I've got. So I will I'll put a zip tie over it, a decent quality zip tie, just to hold it in. Alrighty, so I've got that regulator rectifier in, bolted that up. I just put some spring washers on there just to make sure that doesn't vibrate loose, and then I've run that cable tie, as I said, in the back. It's nice and secure, it's not going anywhere. When I finally fit, I'll probably put a little bit of rubber underneath here. It's grounded here. I don't know if it has to be grounded, but it's grounded through these bolts. So if I'll just put that on just to stop it scratching the paint on the down tube. But that's just what I do. So what I'll do is I'll start at the headlight, and I'll put this end through. Now on the right hand side, a bolt in the headlight bucket, as you look at it, the proper inside nut has a little hole for this to go into. So when you get it in, this brown clip clips into the hole on that nut, and that just helps hold the wires out of the way on the right hand side. Keeps them clear of the speedo cable and all the other stuff that's jammed in there. It is a bit of a spaghetti cluster in there, so and it can help clean it up is worth it. So what I'm going to do is turn the camera off. I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to run it through. But I'm going to run it through. It comes up on the right hand side of the bike. Again, looking from the back of the bike to the front of the bike, it comes up through here. I normally run it up above this here, which is for the Downtube plastic cover bolts in here. I normally run it up through here, and it comes around. Comes around here and into the bucket from that way. So I'll do that now. I'm back in a sec. Alright, so I've got that in there now. So as I say, sits above this, comes around the front, and goes into the back of the headlight bucket. All the spaghetti comes out there. So I'll deal with this later. We'll connect it all up, and that'll probably be a video in itself. But again, we'll just continue to get this laying into where it belongs. So on the side of the rectifier regulator, there's a little tab here, and that sits in there. And what I'll do is I connect the ignition now, and I sit that inside there as well, and I also connect up. Now this one is a bit tricky. There's a pink or white, normally pink coated, fabric coated wire comes from the and someone might help me out on this one because I'm not 100% sure. There's a regulator and rectifier in that mounting bracket. On the bigger one with the plug, it says rectifier regulator. So I'm not 100% sure what the smaller one is. I thought one was a rectifier and one was a regulator. Maybe someone can clear that up for us. But that goes into this brown and white wire, as far as I know. That's the way this bike was. And it's the only place for it to go. We have a pink wire here, but it goes to the engine. So in the ones that I've done, that goes to there. Now, wiring is not my strong point. I can do the basics, I can get through, I can troubleshoot, problem solve bits and pieces, but you know, I've done the 12 volt conversion a few times. I can get it done, but yeah, technical terms, as we know, aren't my strong point, and 100%. So what I would do is just connect that up and then hope, you know, that it is right. It's the only place for it to go. So we'll hook that up. If someone can correct us on that, that'd be great. But we'll keep soldiering on. So I'll connect this ignition switch up. I'll connect this up, and I'll sort of lay these guys together. Well, I can actually connect the two 6-pin or 5-pin connectors together. That's the regulator rectifier to the loom, so I can connect them up and just try and basically tidy it up a bit, and I'll might throw a loose cable tie just to hold it in place, and then we'll get to the next bit, which is getting the loom up into the battery box. So I'll do that now. Okay, so I've connected up the ignition switch, which is this, you know, colour to colour, red to red, black to black. Pretty straightforward. Connected that. I've connected the regulator rectifier to that pin. I've tried to sort of lay it up so it sits nice and neat. Eventually I'll put another cable tie when I get this all tidied up. But they're my wires to go to my stator and my ignition module on the engine. Okay, so now we've got the rest of the loom. At the front of the frame, there's a hole here. Now that hole is for your fuel lines. And on the side there's a cutout. See that check out there? And that's where the wiring sits up underneath that. And that just keeps it up out of the way of the engine. No, that looks like that wire that goes in there, but it doesn't. It's just sort of how it's sitting. And that comes up underneath there. You can pass it up. I might have to disconnect. I plugged all that stuff in to show you where it went, but it might not come through. Alright, I'll disconnect that stuff and pull it through and show you. Okay, so we have pulled that up there through there, so that runs up in that checkout, and the spark plug lead also runs out there, leaving this for the fuel lines to come through. So I'll put the coil in now, just while we've got this open, before we put the battery box in and start the clips and things up. I'm gonna have to get the tail light assembly in and run that through and plug it in. I'll probably do that in a separate video just to break them up a bit. Okay, so I've got them through. I've got the coil up. So the coil just bolts. I showed you this briefly before in the video. Comes up through the bottom, and there's two nuts sit on top, and that also runs down through the same hole where the loom comes through, and they sit side by side up out of the way of the engine when it sits there, because the engine basically sits hard up there. So if they sit anywhere else, they'll get crushed by the engine itself, or make it harder to put the engine in. So they sit there. We're just going to leave them sort of hang there for now. On the coil there is a little black wire with a yellow line. It goes into one of these guys. So what I do is, there's something like that, I'll put it in there straight away, just so that I don't, when I get to the next step, I don't have 100 wires to connect. I've only got 90 wires. So I'll connect that up now. I'll probably put the earth strap on the ground on as well, just to again tidy it up, get it out of place, out of the way, sorry. I'll strip this just so I can put some new wires in. That's the positive and negative for the battery, and I'll reconnect these and put them on the back of the battery holder. So I'll do that now. I'll come back just as I'm putting those things back on. So the two wires at a right angle fittings, instead of the rest of them are just sort of straight plug. These are the right angle ones. They go on the indicator flasher, and then there's two plugs, a 4 and a 2, and they go on the CDI. Okay, so I'll just put that ground on, and I've plugged in the CDI and flasher can be on there. I'm just going to cut this one here because I'll run out of time. I'll do more details of that later on. I'm loving the build, guys. It's good fun. Can't wait to auction this bike off and make some money for the kids and make the Wish Foundation. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, do all that sort of stuff, and I'll be back soon with Part 2 of the wiring loom.